Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here. How we doing today? Welcome to another episode of Epic 7, and today we're going over the live stream patch notes that happened last week. Well, technically they happened today, but it was literally just a copy and paste from last week, unfortunately. So we're gonna do a couple things in this video. For one, we're gonna go over everything just very briefly. And for two, I'm gonna rant a little bit. So if that's not the type of mango you like, just skip the end bit. But I feel like I need to say a couple things because it's getting a little bit frustrating. So let's go into this. So the first off, we have the new side story here. Not side story, main story, Dragon Valley of the Past. And it comes with a crit damage deck that's actually pretty good. There's no speed on this, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. Health, attack, crit chance, effectiveness. 2 of the 4 stats are exactly what you want, and 1 of the 4 stats is okay, and 1 of the 4 is not good, basically. So you can end up with a pretty good neck with this. Next up, we have July balance adjustments. I already talked about this in depth last week, so go check out that video if you're really interested in it. But long story short, I'm most excited for the Violet buff. I'd be excited for Secret, but I don't have her. I'm not excited for ML Ken. I'm pretty excited for Hufine as well. And the other 3 I don't really use, but I am pretty stoked for Violet. Next up, they showed us 15 minutes of the same video of this that they showed us last week. So this is the new type of content they're putting out, and it's going to be on 3 difficulties. You're going to be able to repeat it. You get some 3-star Elsons. There's also going to be 9 units used here, but I'm not sure how it's gonna play. Honestly, this looks like a snooze fest to me, unfortunately, just because of how overwhelming the text is. So for me, I like to kind of figure out PvP or PvE as I go and kind of enjoy and play with characters. But looking at this, there's 3 different phases. Each of them has a bunch of different stuff, abilities, and each ability is like this long. And then some of the abilities are this long, and then introduce 3 new skills that are this long. So it covers up half your screen. So I don't think I'm going to super enjoy this. I'm gonna obviously try, but it's the same type of style of Abyss, I feel, in a repeatable and less difficult way. The rewards are great, that is for sure. Like I said, you get the 3-star, well, 3 to 5-star light thing here. And you also get a bunch of other stuff like gems and such. And speaking of gems, this is one thing they are adding to this. This is actually new for the week. This is a lesser greater modification gem extraction. Basically, it'll work like other similar extractions things do in this game, and you will be getting 2 crafts once a month. So you can craft twice once a month. Cool. We also have combat timeline improvements. This is something I'm actually the most excited for of everything this patch, specifically because I always fight units I'm not familiar with. And for example, the Op Sigrid I fought recently, I wasn't exactly sure what she did, and it now allows you to tell what they do. Worth noting here that it shows everything at plus 15, so this is actually pretty good because then your opponent can't tell what plus you have your unit on, right? So they have to kind of keep guessing a little bit there. I do really like this. That is a good change. We then have a movement system improvements for anywhere you auto in this game. Instead of tapping and holding, you just have to click. We then have drop rate up for Litica and Sword of Judgment here. I really like Sword of Judgment. It's a really fun artifact. We then have the Skyward season ending. We knew about this last week. But here are the circles that are pretty cool. We then have the Ruel skin. We watched the Ruel skin video again, which I did last week. Yeah, it's a cool skin. I like it. Just because we didn't have enough videos that we'd already seen before. It was about 25 minutes of rerun videos, it felt like at this point, that we had already seen multiple times. We then got the straws video. And this is one of the ones that really actually makes me really angry. This infuriates me, actually. And the more I think about it, the more angry I get. And this is because in the first video they released, no, let's go back a little bit. In the past, they've screwed up quite a bit with stuff like translations and important skill effects and just labeling stuff wrong, and specifically abilities not working like they say or they should because it didn't translate enough or their text sucked. And after they fixed the last couple of them, they were like, okay, we're gonna work hard and this isn't going to happen again. And then the next week, Strazzy's video came out, and the video we got was already missing a line of text, or actually not missing a line of text. It had a line of text it shouldn't have. So with Strazzy's skill 3, it says in the video that they put out last week and on YouTube last week that with your skill 3, it says that you need to kill with your skill 3 to get invincibility. But that's not actually true. He gets invincibility every time he uses skill 3, and that's a pretty big change. That's a massive change to his skill set. It means you don't have to build him super damagey if you don't want. You don't have to try to guarantee the kill. There's tons of stuff that's really important with that. And I think it's like a defining enough characteristic to warrant whether or not you pull for him. Like if you're somebody who pulls for like power, for example, getting invincibility every single time you use your skill 3 versus just getting it when you kill something is a massive change in his power. So yeah, they reran the video they released last week, which had the same error in the text, and this is really just, I can't even with that. That is not okay. Absolutely not okay. And you might think it's not a big deal, it's just a text change, but it's a massive deal. Like, it is so big. Like, imagine if they released the video for Strazzy and it was the other way around, and the video didn't see anything about having to kill something, and then they release him and his skill 3 has that line added in game that wasn't on the video, and you're like, what's going on here? It can be opposite way. Like in this instance of the release, Strazzy was better than what they shown, but that's just RNG, right? They 15%ed and they got lucky, right? Whereas if it was the other way around, the amount of the amount of like rioting and stuff that can come from that is just it's so insane to me that they literally re-release this video without, like, they could have just crossed it out, you know, like put a here, I'll do it. Let's say this is the text. Let's say this is the text here. World of Rekos is the line of text that needs to be removed. There. Or even better, if you want to be better about it, we can make it red and go like that. Or if you really want to be better, you can just go something like this. Of course, everything's screwing up right now because I am on not the usual scene I am. So you could do this instead and cover that. Cover it with red. Cover it with red. Or this is probably better just doing this. You know, like, how hard is that? It's just baffling to me. We also, Mystic Summon rotation, we already knew this. We talked about this last week. We also have the July check-in event, and they frame this as something new, but we already knew about this as well. This is the same thing that we talked about last week and the week before, I think. So this is 700 Mystics just for logging in here. This is great, don't get me wrong, but it is definitely a rerun. We then are getting Rowana. I don't remember if they told us about this or not. And we're also getting Charlotte. So I don't think they told us about these last two, but they're reruns in themselves. And Elbrus Ritual Sword, I'm pretty excited for this, actually. I will probably be pulling, even though I have Charlotte and Elbrus, because I really like Charlotte, and I want some more Elbrus just to have one max and maybe one extra. We then went over the Hugh Fiend again. Thankfully, they didn't show us the video for this for the 5th time. But this is pretty cool here. It's coming on the 22nd. We already knew that, though. This is something that is technically new, just a way to farm spirit altars more effectively, hopefully. Instead of 1 to 10 stages, it's now going to be 1 to 4, and easy, normal, hard, and hell. So hopefully that means the drop rates are better at the end. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I guess we'll see. We then have 10 consecutive summons in the Forest of Souls. This is another great thing they added here. Just a little quality of life to kind of make life a little bit better in the game. And then we have the Epic Delivery Season 2, and this is basically 7 people are going to win a Luna figure. So this has nothing to do with actual in-game content. This is just like a contest outside they're posting. So that is it for the day. And yeah, I'm a little upset. And mainly, I'm sorry, by the way, this is where you cut out if you don't want to hear me rant, because I know not everybody likes this side of me. And if you're peacing out, thank you so much for watching. But let's talk a little bit about this. And I try not to be critical of games, but this is honestly just ridiculous at this point. And it's really, really frustrating. Basically, every gacha game I am playing outside of this, and every gacha game that I follow outside of this, has regular content updates, has regular characters, has regular skins, has regular holiday units, sometimes depending on the game, has just regularity. And if there's one thing Epic 7 has for the last like year and a half, it's been regularly doing nothing, which is a little frustrating. It's very frustrating. There is so much with this game that can be expanded on, that can be improved upon, that can be added. It just kind of baffles me. There's so much with nothing done. And yeah, a lot of people say COVID messed things up, but it was kind of happening before then. Yeah, COVID is a problem, obviously, but there are a ton of things you can do to the game to make it better, even if all of your artists and graphic designers and character designers and stuff like that are having problems communicating because of COVID. The other thing too, with the last year and a half, we had the pretty big Epic 7 Arise thing, but at the same time, it brought virtually nothing in terms of actual gameplay to old players like me, and just people that weren't new players. We got some free stuff. We got an ML5, but to me, that doesn't, like, that's free stuff, you know? Like, that's a reward for playing the game. That's not like new content and stuff like that. But outside of that, there really didn't feel like there was anything in that update. There's also just the insane amount of reruns we're getting. For example, no collab. We don't know why it's a problem. They don't tell us. They won't tell us. But I think it's safe to assume, and I could be wrong here. I may be wrong, and this is just like the only thing that can come to my mind is that they did something wrong, not the other people. Because every other gacha game has one to many collaborations a year, more than one usually, and nobody else is having problems. Even games that have a lot less money than E7 does is securing great collaborations with great in-game assets, with great in-game story with those characters, and we're just not, and that's a little frustrating. Even when we got GG last time, it was a cool collab. I like the characters, of course, but it felt like the actual event was just the same as any other Epic 7 event, you know, with a couple extra steps. And I feel like they really lacked a lot of innovation in that. And then there's characters. We're getting a somewhat steady stream of characters, but not really. Like, we have the Illyanav, we have Straze coming soon, but where is the specialty change units that we're told we'd be getting every, I believe it was 10 weeks? Let me check here. Every 10 weeks, and actually don't see it anymore on E7 leaks, but I think it's every 10 weeks, and I think we're at like 15 weeks or something like that now, 14 weeks. I'm probably wrong on those numbers, but that's just an estimate. Basically, we're long overdue for an SC change. The other problem with SC units is they seem to just throw them out the window, which is incredibly frustrating. To finally get one after 10 weeks, we'll get somebody that is obviously just not viable basically anywhere. You'll have your niche cases like Wanda, for example, can be used in Abyss. Doris is obviously amazing, but then you get stuff like Rima, for example, who I was really excited for, and a bunch of others I can't even think of right now that are just essentially not unusable, but there's no reason to use them, if that makes sense. And I feel like specialty changes are where you should be making units like Carrot, maybe a little bit less powerful than Carrot, but I really feel like these are the units everybody can build without struggling for Mulagora, without struggling to summon them. They should be an integral part of the game, IMO. And even if they're not, they should at least be somewhat useful somewhere. And to have them not be useful for the last one, I think we got was Rima, I can't even remember. And then have it be 14 weeks since the last one is just unacceptable to me, IMO. Also, summer is a little frustrating too. All the other gacha games I'm playing have their summer units already or are releasing them this week. And they'd already released the reruns to go before it. So you had like the pre-summer reruns, and then as summer actually hits, you get the new stuff. And it looks as if we're not getting Iseria for at least 2 to 4 weeks now, I would assume, because we didn't get information of it today, and that means we won't get information of it until 2 weeks from this day, and at that point it might not release until the week after. So I would say like minimum 3 weeks for Seaside Iseria, which will be going into August at this point before we get that. With the month at least 2 months before all being reruns. So that's a little upsetting. Basically, I'm just kind of upset right now. There's so many things they can be doing, and I guess I'll expand on that, because right now I can understand with E7's art style, maybe they had problems getting VAs, maybe they had problems getting artists, maybe they had design people, maybe they had all sorts of stuff like that, like had problems getting stuff together, but that doesn't mean you can't make the game better without adding anything new. So a really good idea for this, or a couple examples, is you know that you're going on 3 months, 4 months without really anything new. Why not change one of the hunts? And we technically got a small change in the hunt drops, but why not make a slightly more difficult, more rewarding Wyvern 14? Why not rotate the elements of Wyvern, Golem, Azumanic, and Katie's, so that Wyvern goes from using earth or water units to using earth or something like that. Golem goes from using fire to using water. Just kind of a little rotation like that to keep it fresh and give some innovation with units and stuff like that. That's something that I personally have always thought should be done, but they don't seem to want to do that. Either way, they could definitely put a lot of content in just by kind of altering the current content we have. We also just got the improved version of Automaton Tower. I did it yesterday and it felt 100% identical to the previous one. There were still no really good devices for the same characters I use, and there were also like no real devices that change what type of characters you use. So I ended up using the same as I always do, which is a mix of rangers and mages. One thing they could do to make it a little bit more entertaining is actually design devices for every 5-star. That can't be too difficult, because maybe the programming might be a little difficult there. So maybe that's a concern, but I'm not familiar with that. But let's say you add one for each character, just something simple to make them slightly better. Like For example, Araminta, when she skill 3s, she could automatically get 100% CR instead of 50% from her skill 2. And you could do a ton of those, and then the game kind of tracks which characters you use for the stage. So for example, if I used Landy, Araminta, Meg, Chloe, and such, when my next group of stuff pops up, I'll get an option focused on those units. So one of them would be guaranteed a device for one of the 4 units I'm using. There's just a ton of ways you can make people actually care for this sort of thing and pay attention to how it's going. So that is a little downer. And we did see that we are getting new content here, but let me find it here. Where is it? This one, I think, right? Yeah, we did see we are getting new content in the Kiss of Frost, which is pretty exciting, but it scares me because of all the content people say they dislike, the same thing always comes up, and that is it's too confusing, there's too much text, and there's too many limitations. And after reading their abilities, it feels like this is just a literal repeat of all the things that people super complain about thrown into one boss. So that's what kind of confuses me there. There's a lot more I can talk about, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy with the game. I'm super loving E7. It's a great game. I'm really enjoying it. But why not do more? On top of what I mentioned before with the hunt ideas they could do, they could also do stuff like maybe try to make expeditions more interactive. They could do stuff like maybe add some more exclusive equipments, since the rate we're getting them I don't think is enough, and I think there's so many people that still need them. They could do things like mini buffs and mini balance patches weekly or bi-weekly instead of monthly, I think they are. They could do big reworks that cause excitement for the next month or something like that, like a big rework, like something like a Carrot got reworked and she's really popular, a lot of people use her and enjoy her. They can do things like give us free equipment removal permanently, because it's so much fun when you have free equipment removal. At the start of the game, I was honestly against giving people free equipment removal because at the day one of the game, I thought like the little choices you made were super impactful, and I thought it was important back then, but now it is not important, and it is just frustrating to try to change your gear. I personally did Abyss 100 to 107 during the last free equipment removal, and it was a hiccups. It was a blast. I enjoyed myself, but I cannot bring myself to do it because every stage I would try to do an Abyss, it would cost me like 4 million gold, and that's just not okay. And speaking of free equipment removal, why are they essentially the same slot as when you want to be farming hunts? Which is a little frustrating. And yes, we're getting bonuses to hunt days and stuff like that, but why not do something you don't normally do? Why not do half energy double drop hunt rates? Do something super omega exciting that people will really enjoy. And if you do those like the weekend for the next month, they'll sell a ton of leaf packs too. So I'm just confused, you know? I just am struggling and I'm confused, and I just want to know what's going on. I just really want to know what's going on, and I really just want to play Epic 7 is basically what it comes down to, you know? I just want to play Epic 7, and it's different for everybody, obviously, but I am personally extremely limited by Molagoras, and it would be semi-fine to be limited by Molagoras if there was always new content coming in, if there was always a flow of excitement, if there was always new things to do to interact with your units. But when you're doing the same thing for 2 years or something like that, primarily, you really want to change up your units so you can have fun in a different way with the same content. You can interact with a set of content without having that content need to be changed, if that makes sense. But we don't have the resources for that either. So Mango 7 confused, basically. And I wasn't sure if I should talk about this or if I should just put out a video. And I honestly think I could have put out last week's video and covered 95% of the same stuff. So yeah, I think I'm gonna stop here. That's a long time of ranting, and this isn't me trying to just complain. This is me trying to spark a conversation of things they can do, and maybe give feedback, and maybe figure things out. There's so much. So I'm gonna stop here. Thank you so much if you got this far. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe as always, and I will talk to you all later. Bye, everybody.